Paimon is the most mysterious character in Genshin Impact. Despite knowing all about the world, nobody knows who or what she is, including the Abyss sibling. But her true identity may have been revealed long ago. Sit back and grab a snack while we try to answer the age-old question. Who or what is Paimon? The traveler fished Paimon up 2 months before the events of the game began. Paimon claims that she was traveling while exhausted when she was caught in a strange whirlpool that sucked her out to sea. After being rescued, she taught the traveler the language of Teyvat and proudly declared herself the best traveling companion in all of Teyvat. Paimon is well versed in Teyvat's nations and environment, using her knowledge to guide the traveler through each region and share insights about the Archons. Yet, despite her simple backstory, Paimon has many mysterious qualities. Not only can she fly, but she also has immunity to the Abyss, can appear and disappear at will, has a contrail of constellations wherever she flies, and her outfit is adorned with celestial motifs. Paimon also shares the name with King Paimon, a demon king listed in the Lesser Key of Solomon, from which Hoyoverse gets the names for nearly all of their gods. But what stands out most of all is Paimon's cape, which depicts 3 moons with stars orbiting them, a detail that grows more significant when you look at Teyvat's ancient history. Legend has it that in ancient times the moon seen from Teyvat wasn't the one seen today. Instead, the sky was home to 3 moon sisters, Arya, Sonnet and Cannon, sovereigns of the night sky. The moon sisters were some of the oldest entities in Teyvat, living alongside the first Seelie. They would traverse the heavens in their silver carriage, admiring the fleeting stars of daybreak. They ruled in harmony, sharing sovereignty by switching positions in the sky once every 30 days. But it was fated that if they failed to switch positions on time, disaster would befall, a fate that may have led to their demise. And you can free yourself of the fate of missing out on your favorite characters by checking out a site called Loot Bar. Loot Bar is a website that offers cheaper top-ups for games such as Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail. Loot Bar is cooperating with the Hoyoverse routing partner so that your transactions will be completely safe, which is why they've received thousands of 5-star reviews on Trustpilot. Loot Bar can save you up to 23% compared to topping up through Hoyoverse. All you need to do is choose the crystal pack you want, enter your server and UID, finish your purchase, and wait a few seconds for the crystals to be delivered. New users can also get a coupon for 8% off, saving you even more money. Other creators such as Dukaja and Teyvat Times have also utilized Loot Bar to save money while wishing for characters, because there really is no better deal out there. So, if you want to rewrite your fate, just click on the first link in the description and check out Loot Bar for yourself. It was a faraway time of calm and peace. Divine envoys spoke openly with the people then, bringing them word from the heavens. But in time, invaders descended from beyond the firmament, bringing with them destruction, overturning rivers, spreading plagues. When the second who came arrived on Teyvat, they brought war to the heavens. During the war, the Moon Sisters' palace got hit, and they turned on each other, eventually leading to their demise. The moon now seen in the sky is a mere corpse of one of the sisters, shedding its pale ethereal light. Well, not exactly. Although there's only one visible moon in Teyvat's sky, we know more exist. There's one in the Spiral Abyss, one beyond the full sky, the Crimson Moon of Kain Raya, and there may be a frost moon in Nod Krai. So, although the 3 moons no longer dwell in Teyvat's skies, they do still exist. And since Paimon's cape depicts the 3 original moons in the same sky, it suggests that she is either connected to the moons or has been around since before the sky got changed. The triquetra on Paimon's chest is also often used to represent a trinity, like the 3 moon sisters. And remember what I said about Paimon's name being drawn from the Lesser Key of Solomon, something exclusive to gods and archons. Well, Paimon has outright referred to herself as the god of protection, yet another trait she shares with the moons.
Maybe that god has been crying all this time because they were bullied.
I don't think gods can cry.
There are exceptions. If you pinch Paimon, you'll be able to see a crying god.
Are you a god?
Paimon sure is. As your bodyguard, Paimon is the god of protection.
Not only has Paimon been likened to the moon multiple times throughout the game, but she shares many design similarities with another celestial god, the sustainer of the heavenly principles. Now, while I don't believe that Paimon is the sustainer, they do have visual similarities I'd like to point out. In addition to having pale skin and white hair, both Paimon and the sustainer have starry capes that shift colours, and they also both have trichetras on their outfits, the only difference being that Paimon's is flipped upside down. Furthermore, Paimon and the sustainer both have connections to stars, similar to how the Moon Sisters loved the stars of daybreak. And if you take a closer look at the sustainer's arrival in the opening cutscene, you'll notice something very interesting about her portals. When the sustainer first arrives, her portals take the shape of 3 stars with moon-shaped things inside of them. One leading portal with 2 lesser ones beside it, almost as if 2 lesser powers are meant to be beside her. And when you remember that the 3 Moon Sisters shared sovereignty by switching positions, it's not unreasonable to say that the size of the portals may be used to show which sister is currently in control. But notice that the Sustainer's portal is the only one that hasn't been tainted with red, almost as if she's the only moon that wasn't fully corrupted during the calamity that was said to have killed them all. If you haven't caught on, I'm suggesting that the Sustainer may be one of the Moon Sisters. Following the calamity, she was the only sister left standing, tasked with patrolling the sky and protecting Tevat from foreign powers like the twins. But rather than fully dying, I believe the remaining Moon Sisters may have just faded into obscenity, preferring to remain in the shadows rather than actively acting on Tevat. All of them except for Paimon. In addition to her ties to the moon and a potential Moon Sister, aria, sonnet, and canon were heavily related to music and poetry. An aria is a lyrical tune hummed by a solo voice, a sonnet is a poem composed of 14 lines, and a canon is the leading melody that the following melodies imitate. And even the melody hummed by a female voice in the loading screen is titled Dream Aria. Taking a step back, let's revisit Paimon's demon inspiration, King Paimon. Some sources claim that before King Paimon got booted out of heaven, he was an angel from the choir of the Dominions, angels who regulated the duties of other angels. According to the Pseudo-Monarchia Daemonum, King Paimon was among the angels captivated by Lucifer's music, attempting to imitate the notes of the morning star. After being cast out of heaven, King Paimon was placed in the musical choir of hell, tasked with singing praises to Lucifer. This is relevant to Genshin's Paimon because of the sheer amount of time she's been used for music covers. Back in 4.4, we received a name card for the Stellar Moments album depicting Paimon surrounded by musical notes. The description of the name card reads, "We parted in one melody and reunited in another," which may hint that Paimon had a different form before getting sucked out into the ocean. I say all this to say that both Paimon and the Moon Sisters are constantly related to music. But Paimon's connections to the moon don't just stop there. During the Lunar Realm event, we were tasked with helping a woman catch the legendary Lunar Leviathan, a moonfin fish. According to legend, the Lunar Leviathan was a fish that could grant people's wishes. When a school of moonfin fish gathers together, they resemble the shape of a moon, making each individual moonfin fish a fragment of the moon. Each fish is also covered in starry moonlit dots that resemble stars. Oddly enough, in addition to sharing the same blue and purple hue, the moonlit stars that cover the moonfin fish are nearly identical to the stars that cover Paimon's moonlit cape. And if you take a look at Paimon's bargain shop, you can exchange star glitter, stardust, and primogems for fates, otherwise known as wishes. Although gameplay isn't always a direct translation of lore, I firmly believe that gameplay features are always hinting at, or are related to lore, even if there are subtle differences. So, I strongly doubt that Paimon selling wishes is solely a gameplay feature. In addition to sharing colours and the ability to grant wishes with the moonlit Lunar Leviathan, Paimon was also fished out of water. And during the Lunar Realm event, we were told to reel in the moon in reference to the Lunar Leviathan. To do so, you must use special bait known as glowgrass. According to its description, it shines where no light illuminates, and may thus hold special attraction for those fellows who ever yearn for light. And who fished Paimon up? The light-bringing golden-haired traveller who has quite literally brought light to the dark. This connection to fate and the moon further deepens Paimon's connections to the Moon Sisters because of the 3 goddesses Hoyoverse likely drew inspiration from when creating the Moon Sisters, the Moirai. In Greek mythology, the Moirai, also known as the Fates, were 3 sisters, Clotho, Lachesis, and Atropos. They were believed to be the weavers of fate and were worshipped even above the gods, depending on which mythos you read. Although they all presided over fate, each sister had a role to play. Clotho, the spinner, spun the threads of life, representing the present moment. Lachesis, the apportioner, measured the thread and determined the destiny of a person's life, representing the future. And Atropos, the inflexible, would cut the thread of life, dictating when a person would die. Although the Morai weaved people's fates, their primary task was to ensure that life followed the universal laws, which take the form of the heavenly principles in Genshin Impact. As we previously discussed, it was fated that disaster would befall Teyvat if the Moon Sisters didn't switch sovereignty every 30 days. And according to King Deshret, people must follow the moonlight to find their final fate. Taking this into consideration, the Serpent Knights dialogue in the chasm may have a much deeper meaning, because according to them, the Traveler is a companion of the tyrant, Fate. And who could the Traveler's fateful companion be if not Paimon? When you put all the pieces together, her true identity couldn't be any more obvious. Paimon is one of the Moon Sisters, goddesses of fate. During the calamity, she had to use a large portion of her power to defend herself, losing her memories and form in the process. This may also be why Dottore's device was able to work on Paimon. She isn't currently in the position of sovereignty, meaning that she isn't currently categorized as a god. If Paimon is a Moon Sister, it'd also explain why, despite being connected to Irminsul, her fate is unreadable. She is above fate itself.
This travel companion of yours, do you know anything of her origins? No matter what, I cannot seem to discern a single shred of information regarding this floating fairy's fate. Oh? So you don't know where she comes from either?
To restore or access her previous power, Paimon must follow her fleeting star, the Traveler, to ascend to Celestia and seize her rightful place as a sovereign of the night sky, regaining her divinity and access to her previous power and lost memories, similar to how Neuvillette regained his elemental authority. Only then will a new moon illuminate Teyvat's skies, serving as a fateful guide to those lost in darkness, the greatest traveling companion in all of Teyvat. And that new gentle moon will be none other than Paimon. Or will it? You see, we never went over the ancient entity who lived alongside the Moon Sisters. For Paimon's second potential identity, we're going back to the first of the celestial race of angels, the ancestor Seelie. In Natlan, we finally got confirmation that the Seelies were previously angels. The Seelies we encounter today are nothing more than small balls of elemental energy with the innate will to guide travelers. But in the past, they belonged to the divine celestial race of angels. With pale skin and otherworldly beauty, the angels possessed immense power and divine knowledge of the world. Celestia entrusted them with the task of guiding the early humans and teaching them the languages of the world. When they weren't working, the Seelies would worship the three Moon Sisters at the Lunar Palace, singing their songs in the Hall of Angels. But despite their immense power, the angels were born with a curse. According to the Aranara, it was fated that if an angel were to fall in love, a calamity would befall Teyvat, and the angel would be stripped of their power and memories. Whether this was done as a form of protection or punishment is unknown, but before the others came along, there was only one angel, the Primordial Angel. Legend has it that long ago, the first angel fell in love with an outlander, and the two swore an oath of union with the three Moon Sisters bearing witness. But, as fated, a calamity befell Teyvat 30 days after their union. The first angel and her lover tried to outrun destruction, but the calamity eventually caught them. As dictated by the curse, the angel and her lover were eternally separated, and she was stripped of her power and memories. Although the angel had forgotten the source of her sadness, she could feel that a part of her was missing, leaving her with deep sorrow. Over time, she could no longer bear the sadness and resorted to self-pity, mourning as her form withered away, leaving behind nothing more than fragments. Those fragments of the first angel became what are now known as Seelies, husks of the previous race. They now rely on humanity to guide them back to their courts, exchanging treasure for a chance to finally rest. So, what does any of this have to do with Paimon? Well, as we just covered, the Seelies were a race with pale skin and knowledge of the world. And if the legend is true, all of the future angels that went on to become the Seelies originated from the first Primordial Angel who lived alongside the Moon Sisters, bathing in their ethereal light. Now take a look at Paimon. In addition to her pale skin and knowledge of the world, Paimon also has a similar contrail to the Seelies. But while Seelies produce stardust, Paimon produces complete stars and constellations. But the similarities don't end there. Paimon is also elemental in nature, just like the Seelies. After stepping foot in Sumeru, Nahida confirmed that both Paimon and the Traveler had the blessing of Dendro, and back in Dragonspine, Albedo alluded to Paimon possessing enough elemental power to literally reverse the flow of a waterfall.
I wonder, did Paimon guide the elemental power to you? But that would mean that Paimon's elemental power would be enough to break through a mountain rock at least 10 meters thick, or cause the waterfall south of Springville to flow backwards.
Furthermore, in addition to guiding the Traveler, Paimon was the one who taught them the language of Tevat, just like an angel. Throughout the game, there have been many odd moments where Paimon has seemingly related to the sorrow of separation. One example of this was in Caribert, where Paimon claimed to understand how it feels to be separated from someone with no explanation.
Yeah, Paimon understands. Being separated without even knowing the reason why, it's just terrible.
Another odd moment occurred in Natlan, where Paimon seemed to self-reflect on Renova's seclusion and self-pity, which is what caused the first angel to wither away.
She succumbed to self-pity as a result, and no longer cared if others discussed her identity.
Self-pity?
If you haven't caught on yet, I'm suggesting that Paimon may be what remains of the first angel, someone who fragmented herself through grief, causing her to regress into the child we now travel with. In Irish folklore, Seelies and fairies are interchangeable. With this in mind, logic follows that fairies should be interchangeable with angels. And not only has Paimon been referred to as a fairy multiple times, but in addition to calling herself the best travel guide in all of Tevat, Paimon has outright said that her name is a title that belongs to an angel. As stated by Paimon during the last Lantern Rite, her name means the guardian angel of travelers, which perfectly ties into her previous claims of being the god of protection.
If nothing else, a Paimon-shaped kite could at least make sure you never get lost on your travels and always find the tastiest food and funnest things to do wherever you go. How about this? The word Paimon means the guardian angel of travelers.
But we can't go this long without mentioning Simulanka, a storybook world based on Tevat. In Simulanka, we encountered Nilu, who was playing the role of the forest fairy. As a fairy, Nilu could bless creatures with good wishes, and if a fairy can grant people's wishes, the same should apply to angels. And as we previously discussed, Paimon can grant people's wishes using stardust and primordial gems. The angels also had immense connections to music, because in addition to singing in the Hall of Angels, Nabu Malikata, an exiled angel, taught Rukkhadevata the source song that birthed the Aranara. And we already know that Paimon has numerous connections to music. There was also a very mysterious moment in Chenyu Val when we encountered 3 Seelies. As they were assisting us, Little Mao asked Paimon if she plays with Seelies often. In response, Paimon nervously laughed, saying, "Haha, play together. Yeah." On its own, this could be passed off as a harmless reply, but when you take everything else into consideration, it's far too suspicious to ignore. If Paimon is not a Moon Sister, I believe she's the Primordial Angel who lived alongside them. Her desire to guide the Traveler across Tevat may come from her previous mandate to guide the lost. As their journey progresses, the Traveler is also guiding Paimon back to her court in Celestia, a court that will serve either as her new throne or her final resting place. As for which route Hoyoverse will take, only time will tell. Post-video syncs here. I know that was a lot of information, but there are many more speculations that I left out of the main segment in the interest of time. Starting off, let's talk about the Moon Sisters. Although we only have a few legends of the Moon Sisters, I believe we may know who they actually are. Rather than being Arya, Sonnet, and Canon, as claimed in legend, the real Moon Sisters may be 3 out of the 4 shining shades of the Primordial One: Istaroth, Renova, the Sustainer, and the Shade of Life who created Egeria. If Paimon is also a Moon Sister, she may either be the crown of reason or a replacement for a dead shade. You see, as King Deshret was recounting the creation of the world in the Staff of Scarlet Sands, he started off by noting the creation of 3 moons and a sun, even predating Wait itself. And in Before Sun and Moon, the scribe of Istaroth recounts the creation of the 4 shining shades, predating the recreation of the world. Furthermore, each of the 4 shades controls an aspect of fate, just like the Moon Sisters. Death, as dictated by Ronova, is an inescapable fate. Life, as dictated by the Shade of Life, is an unavoidable destiny. Time, as dictated by Istaroth, persists no matter what you do, leading you to your pre-written destiny. And space, as presumably dictated by the Sustainer, locks you into the fate dictated by the heavenly principles. Each of the 4 shades are also presumably connected to the moons and music. Before the rise of the Black Sun dynasty, Ronova was worshipped as a crimson moon in Cainria, despite taking the form of an eye. Ronova also gifted Natlan the Ode of Resurrection, a song that could heal any victors who got hurt during the Night Warden Wars. And according to the alchemy NPC in Fontaine, clocks are the score of Time's song, which should mean that they're the score of Istaroth's song, Time. With this in mind, I can't help but wonder if the new moons, the shining shades, were created with power drawn from the shattered moons. According to the Fatui, the moon fragments seen beyond Natlan's skies are remnants of ancient dragon technology, which implies that the previous moons were made using dragon technology. Taking that into consideration, the primordial one may have used the power released from the shattered moon to power the new moons, which may have been created using celestial technology. If so, it may explain why we receive mail from 2 different Paimons. Although we receive some mail from the Paimon we travel with, we also receive mail from another Paimon, whose name is an acronym. This would make sense if the latter was a moon created using celestial technology, since we've seen something similar before in the desert. Asimon, otherwise known as the algorithm of semi-intransient matrix of Overseer Network, was created by King Deshret and contained some of his will. With this in mind, Paimon may stand for Primordial Algorithm of Semi-Intransient Matrix of Overseer Network, which would work with the belief that the Moon Sisters exist to oversee Tevat's fate while fulfilling the will of the heavenly principles. The Paimon we travel with may be a manifestation of the moon's power, allowing it to work similarly to Ronova's eye. This would explain why Kichibushi refers to Paimon as Spymon, as well as why Cantanilla views Paimon as a rainbow balloon with strings extending beyond the sky itself. She may currently be puppeted by the new moon that exists beyond the full sky. But even if that's correct, the new moon may not be evil. Up to this point, Celestia's biggest flaw has been their inability to deeply connect with humanity. They even grew eyes to bear witness to the beauty of the world below, but, as something beyond human, they couldn't see it in the same way humans did. The new moon may be attempting to fix this flaw, using Paimon as a proxy to learn about Tevat and humanity through the eyes of a citizen before ascending to godhood. By doing things this way, the new moon will learn how to rule Tevat like a gentle god rather than a heartless automaton. But what do I know? These are just my outlandish speculations. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed it, please consider leaving a like and/or subscribing. Remember to check out Loot Bar using the link in my description to save money on Primogems. I hope you all have a great rest of your days, evenings and nights. See you at the Lunar Palace.